planet that brings you face to face with top thought leaders, experts, comedians, CEOs in real time so you too can pick their brain, have a conversation, and enjoy your life with them. Like all the stuff that you can do that you can't do without talking to all these amazing guests. So today we have with us JP Sears, who is a YouTuber, a comedian, emotional healing coach, author, speaker, world traveler, curious student of life. Hop on in to thatgeek.com/live. We'll get started. Like this. JP Sears, awesome having you here. How are you, my friend?
I think I'm good for a redhead, trying to keep my life in order, remember to eat and sleep. Sometimes I remember to do some of those things. So long story short, in my state of blissful delusion, I'm doing pretty good.
That's pretty good because, you're a celebrity right now. And how come you're not breaking down and crying all over Instagram like all the other celebrities?
That's a good question. I'm finding Facebook is the better platform to break down and cry on right now to get more sympathy from people. As I'm here stuck in my pretend mansion, I've got it incredibly tough, which makes it so I can relate to people who are stuck in their 200 square foot apartments.
Now, did you learn, do you figure out how to cook by now and clean the house?
I know. Well, I've got servants doing that for me, which is it's tough because sometimes they don't wipe their feet when they come in the house. So it's a mess. It's challenges everybody has right now, and it's tough on me.
I know, right? Especially being a celebrity like yourself, people are looking up to you, expecting you to do better than everybody else, entertaining everybody. And then you just shared a fitness video, what it's like to be a fitness influencer, I believe, yesterday, and in it you said jealousy is the new inspiration.
Yeah.
How do you find that's working very well during Corona time where people are just breaking down in dimensions?
Yeah, well, I think during Corona time is when people need fitness more than ever, and I think what helps people build fitness better than informing them with information that can be usable and help them build their fitness, it's more helpful to inundate them with photos of my body to inspire them to be more jealous. So I find that more compelling than actual useful information.
Totally.
And it's all anecdotal at this point. I've yet to run the studies, but just
speaking of pictures of your body, you shared this one on Twitter a while back, and that broke the internet kind of like Kardashian, like this, or is it getting there?
No, I think it broke the internet. Excuse me, and it gave me a cough. I think I had the coronavirus, but that picture, it's well taken over the internet, and I think it won Instagram. When I put it on Twitter, it somehow won Instagram.
I mean, that's how I found it. There were like so many stories and so many things out there just talking about, amazing body. Is that something that we have to...
It's what matters most at a time like this.
Isn't it? And it's like, don't you feel like you have to be more covered than to keep yourself safe during this time than going out in public like this?
No, in fact, I got a warning from Instagram and Facebook because I was going opposite. So I recently put out a video called Butthole Sunning. In the New Age community, everybody knows that it's the best way to absorb sunlight. And anyway, one of my butthole sunning pictures, it compelled Facebook and Instagram to give me a warning.
Oh, really?
Which to me just suggests they're in bed with Bill Gates and the World Health Organization and Big Pharma.
It's tough, right? It's tough. So you're talking about becoming an influencer. Do we all have to take our clothes off and start showing off our muscles if we want to rise to the level of JP celebrity?
If you want to be an influencer, yes.
If you want to be an influencer, take your clothes off.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, if you had some kind of talent or value to offer people, but I've never really seen an example of that, but theoretically.
Theoretically. Let's talk about something a little serious, right? We want to talk about how you used YouTube to grow your comedy business. So you shared a video on YouTube that was talking about being weird, right? And you kind of like normalized being weird for everybody. And you said that we're all kind of weird in a specific way, right? Let's dive into that for those who haven't seen the video. Let's talk about what being weird is like, and then if that was something that helped you grow your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think being weird is synonymous with being our authentic selves. I think the design team, like whoever made us, wherever we come from, I think they're too creative to just make normal people. Yet I think a lot of us infect ourselves with normalcy in order to get approval and conform, especially like when we're kids. Because a lot of us, we get the message that we get punished if we stand out and we get punished if we don't know. Yet to find your real self, you have to go into the unknown territory and you have to, at times stand out. So, I think a lot of us train ourselves to cover our unique weirdness, our authenticity through the cloak of normalcy. And it makes us feel safe. It makes us feel valued for a little bit. And it also becomes the coffin that suffocates us.
Right.
So, I think the value, the gifts that a lot of people have, it's found in the garden of their weirdness. And, whatever a person's weirdness is for them to discover. I don't even think it's for them to determine. I think it's for them to discover. And when someone has the courage to go there and find it, even though you don't know what you're looking for until you eventually find it, then sharing that weirdness makes us the gift that we get to share with people, whether it's online through a business or in our personal lives. And for me, on my YouTube, whatever level of success I've been able to find, that's my story of what's worked for me, really, which is the more I connect with my weirdness, uncover it, and express it, the more the world responds and the more the success grows. And I can look at, before I was doing comedy on videos, I was more dedicated to serving normalcy. And I can see like, oh, that kept me small because it didn't allow me to access and express the great gifts that are my weirdness. And I don't think that's unique to me. I think all of us have our weirdness. If you look under your clothes, we're all naked weirdos.
Right.
And I think that really helps us connect with our true nature.
So it takes a lot of guts. A lot of people, when I'm in the online content, live streaming playground, and a lot of people are afraid of coming up on camera, afraid to say something live, that's going to make people kind of feel weird. They're afraid to get started because there's not an audience yet. So how did you find the inspiration, I think, right? It's not even fear. It's like, how do you find the inspiration to be like, okay, this is my weirdness and I'm just going to take it to YouTube out of all places?
Yeah, I think first off, the inspiration can be found in a lot of places. We can look at people who inspire us and, get a little IV drip of inspiration from them. Yet I think the real inspiration that can sustain us, it has to be hunger inside. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, it was hunger for something more. Like when I was doing my best to just be normal, and what I realized is like I didn't have a lot of fulfillment. I didn't have a deep, strong sense of purpose. And I felt like a drug addict, just always chasing the next dose of approval, which is just, it's not fulfilling. Right. So through the absence of true self-expression and true authenticity, I became hungry for it. And I think that's something a lot of us can find within, is hunger for something more, whether that's hunger for a deep sense of purpose, hunger for inner fulfillment, hunger to be unapologetically ourselves. And, and part of how we get hungry is well, look at how crappy things are. Now, not to be pessimistic and over catastrophize, but a lot of us have consequences in our lives from not expressing ourselves. It might be boredom, it might be anxiety, it might be depression. So we want to look face to face with the consequences of not being our unapologetic weird selves. And then I think that can help us find that inner hunger. And yeah, once we do that, we have something more than, I would say we have something to go with courage, because we all have courage inside, but we're only willing to use our courage when it's for a greater cause.
Yeah.
And then, when we start putting ourselves out there in a new way, whether it's live video or anything else, of course it's going to be scary. Like you're a sociopath if it's not scary. So I think it helps us to know, like, it's supposed to be scary, but the fact that we're feeling scared usually means we're on the right track. And our hunger combined with our courage can help push us through continuing to do things that scare us. And a quote that I've anchored in my mind, and I'll share it. I don't know if it'll mean anything to anybody, but the wise Joseph Campbell once said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." So if something scares us, we can be intimidated by it and never go into the cave, but we also realize we're not going to get the treasure of the fulfillment, the purpose, the whatever the treasure is for us. But if we notice our fear and remind ourselves of the Joseph Campbell wisdom, like, oh, I'm scared because I'm entering a cave that holds a treasure for me. Many are called, few choose themselves to go in. So we all realize, like, we make our own choice and our actions determine our choice. Am I going to be one who runs from the fear and therefore the treasure? Or am I going to be the one who goes into the cave, has the courage to feel the feelings of being scared, insecure, all the self-talk, I'm doing it wrong, like that all comes up. It's so predictable. And am I going to be the one that does that and gets the treasure because I had the courage and the willingness to go in consistently to the cave that I fear?
I love that you said consistently, because that's the key, right? So let's talk about YouTube. You started YouTube, right? So aside from like actually going in and creating an account, what is it like to start a channel? So everybody who's kind of like, ooh, I want to do something amazing like what you're doing, how do they start? What do they look at?
Yeah, to me, the most important part of starting a channel is make a connection with the Russian bot farms so you can grow your channel exponentially overnight. 50,000 subscribers that aren't actually human beings, that'll gratify your ego. So, but with that said, a more real answer, what's it like to start a channel? As you mentioned, consistency is a huge part of it. For me in the beginning, I was dedicated to doing one video every 2 weeks, and now I'm doing 2 videos a week. And so we have to find what level of consistency can I commit to. And then I think there's also, at least for me, starting the YouTube channel, there's a dance. It's a dance of insecurity, but a dance nonetheless, between what do people want to see from me versus what do I want to express. So, though none of us are ever going to be perfect with that dance, I keep in mind the commandment that I think Moses forgot to write down on the tablets, which is amuse thyself. So I think the more we amuse thyself and we get out of the old mindset that says, what do people want to see from me? And we get the mindset, what does my heart want to express? And we can get in there, amuse thyself. What amuses me? Not just comedically, because a lot of people aren't comedians, but what amuses me as far as information or value to share or art. And then when we do that, we're always being aware of the 2 edges of the dance. What do people want to see versus what's my heart want to express? When we're aware of those, like, we're going to be pretty good. But then there's also a drought. Like, I've never known anybody who grew a big YouTube channel overnight, or or anything remotely fast. And in fact, YouTube, I would say, of all the social medias, it's the one that's by far the most valuable because it is the creator's platform, whereas Instagram and Facebook, those are advertising platforms that they call social media, but they don't want to show your audience your stuff unless you really pay them. Whereas YouTube, it's the creator's platform. So 1 million subscribers on YouTube are far more valuable than 1 million subscribers on Facebook. To me, it's like YouTube's the US dollar and Facebook's, the peso. And then Instagram's whatever the hell the currency that's a little bit in between those two. So my point being, my experience is YouTube oftentimes is actually the slowest one to grow. So we've kind of got to have the mindset of, if I'm just after approval, and like part of that approval is a lot of people are watching my stuff, I'm getting subscribers, we're not going to last.
Yeah.
But if we have the mindset of, I'm doing something that's valuable in whatever way it's valuable to contribute to a better world, and it's worth me doing even if nobody sees it but me, that'll get us through the drought. That'll get us through the tough season.
So how do you know when you crack the code? Was there kind of like a point where you're like, dude, I'm getting it, I'm nailing this YouTube thing? Sure, after 300 million views.
No, there's never a point. In fact, like, I don't even know if I feel that way now, though intellectually, I think in some way I have cracked the code, but I don't feel that. I think, I don't know. I think for me, it's because I don't take anything for granted. I don't take the next view for granted. And I guess because I've worked my butt off, and I continue to work my butt off to put off good content and grow the channel gradually, it doesn't feel like I've cracked the code, though maybe I have.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second before we open it up, because you have questions coming in. Fantastic. Guys, if you want to chat with us, this is the place. thatgeek.com/live. You can come in and ask your questions. Let's talk about what it takes, what it goes into creating a video, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to pull up my camera, I'm going to shoot something up, just put something out on YouTube. Grant Cardone is saying it's not quality, it's just quantity, how many videos you're putting out there so you're in people's faces. What really goes into creating good content that people want to follow and share?
Yeah, I think I have a slightly different opinion than Grant Cardone.
I assume so, yeah.
Not dramatically different. YouTube, actually, it can hurt your viewership to be overly produced. If you look like you made everything in a studio and it's, high production value, like on a studio, and, it can feel very unrelatable to viewers. So that can actually hurt you. But to where I maybe disagree with Grant Cardone, I think Facebook and Instagram, those are the platforms where pulling out your phone and being pretty sloppy and rough around the edges, that's pretty compatible. But YouTube seems to be a little bit more, I want to say the word sophisticated. So if someone wants to grow their presence on YouTube, I do advocate you put a little bit more effort into the videos rather than just, here's my phone and I'm being sloppy and crappy audio and like, boom, right. We're just rambling for 15 minutes. So for me, I've got, a decent camera with a microphone. Good audio quality is even better than picture quality, or it's more important. So, and then there's editing. For me, I'm doing comedy videos, and there's oftentimes different scenes and cutaways. So, and B-roll. So there's definitely a fair bit of editing involved, at least for me. And, if someone's just doing the talk to the camera video, depending on where they're at, they might edit out dead spots, or, if they need to gather their thoughts, they can keep the camera rolling, which is great. You just edit that out. But yeah, so it doesn't need to be a super polished. In fact, like I said, too polished, I think, can work against you, but too sloppy, can
There's a
really
fine
work
line that
against.
goes between them, right? There's a fine line between like, look at me in the garage and look at me, I'm doing something cool, and still, but you're going like completely professional because you have the high camera.
Well, a little bit. I've grown over the years,
Yeah.
and a little over a year ago, I hired a full-time videographer who does my videos and now does all my editing, which is such a godsend. I can stay more in the creative zone that juices me up. And before that, the first probably 4 years of doing YouTube, I was a one-man show, setting the camera up,
Yeah.
running in front of it, hoping I'm like remotely like centered in the shot. But yeah, so I've been able to organically grow a little bit.
Yeah. So let's open it up to the questions from the guys because there's like fantastic questions coming in. I can't remember. I think Sophie was the first one. Sophie, let me turn your camera on and unmute you and hop on in and say hi. There you are. Hi.
Hey there, JP. Am I here? I don't see me.
Yes, you are.
All right. Well, I don't see anything right
You're
now.
totally fine.
Anyway, yeah, JP, I just want to know, when you first stepped into the spotlight online, what did you do to grow the following? Like you obviously had some kind of a following from clubs, whatever, but to get people online, to increase the viewership before you had all the shares, how did you actually attract the traffic on YouTube and the viewers? Oh, and by the way, before I finish, JP, about a week ago, I sent you a connection request on LinkedIn, and I have actually been sitting by my computer 23.5 hours a day waiting for you to accept. So the second you get off this call, I understand that will be your priority, yeah?
That should be my priority. However, get prepared to sit longer. I haven't been able to log into LinkedIn for at least 3 or 4 years.
You have to crack the code.
It's one of those things where I set up the LinkedIn account like on an old email, like super old. I don't even have access to it anymore. So now it's kind of like, hey, LinkedIn, I forgot my login details. Like, cool, we'll email you a new password to the email we have on file. And I was like, well, I can't answer that email. So I think I'm done with LinkedIn. So.
Okay, well, create a new one and send me a connection request, and I will bring you 12,000 more viewers. Not a promise, but I lead a group of people there who are very interested in what you're saying today.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being so kind.
In fact, that's how Yifat got me here today, and that's how I met her. So
wonderful.
It's all connection.
Well, and to your question about growing YouTube in the beginning, there's a couple things. One was leveraging other social media platforms. So it's like, if I have, 1,000 friends on Facebook and 100 followers on Instagram, and certainly with a good LinkedIn network, what I was doing was putting all my YouTube videos there and inviting people on Facebook, hey, come subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm giving away free subscriptions, just as a way to bring attention to my YouTube channel and put that through a season of growth. And also in the beginning, I did a little bit of study into keywords and title optimization and thumbnail optimization, because the thing about YouTube that I think the average person doesn't realize, unlike the other social media platforms, YouTube is a search engine. And it's the second biggest search engine in the world, which is owned by the biggest search engine in the world, Google. So oftentimes you could Google something like how to bake a cake, and you're going to get some responses, like some blogs will be listed, but you're also going to get a lot of YouTube videos. And that's because Google has a lot of incentive to show you YouTube videos, because Google makes money from the ad revenue. So I would leverage that, and just a quick tip, titling videos, because the cool thing with YouTube is you can create new growth and get discovered by new people that would never just find you searching Facebook, because YouTube's a search engine. So when you're making a video, you want to maybe have the mindset of, I'll title this video what somebody would search in Google. Like, if I had a cooking show, like how to bake a cake would be a good title, because that's something someone's going to
kale
search.
versus quinoa, which is better?
Say that again.
So like kale versus quinoa, that would, if I were searching for is kale healthier or is quinoa healthier, I would come up with your video, right?
Yeah. So in that question, like, is kale or quinoa?
Like, how would somebody land on that one?
Yeah, so it might be, what is the healthiest food dash quinoa. So that might be a decent title for a video, because what is the healthiest food?
But you don't want that viewer. You want the viewer who appreciates your comedy, right? Or who's spoofing the self-help gurus, or...
Yeah, so what I was just saying with searching the keywords and titling videos accordingly, because I do comedy personally, that's a technique that doesn't work incredibly well for me. A little bit, but for the average person who's not doing comedy, that's a technique that they can leverage way more than what I have, even though I have gotten some benefit from it.
Thank you.
And I think kale and quinoa are gross.
I just had kale for lunch, so back off.
Yuck. Yeah, we'll sort this out on LinkedIn.
So thanks to Fit. And Leanne, let's unmute you. Turn your camera on. Here you are. And let's find you here. Ta-da. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Yvonne. Long time no talk.
I know, right? Good to see you here.
Let me, okay, we got some things popping up. Thank you for bringing me on. Hi, JP. I just want to say thanks a lot for posting that video, that photo first of you in the bikini, because I had one that's so similar, but like you beat me to it. So, whoever's first wins. So
I like that.
So good for you. And and you look great in the bikini, by the way, much better than me.
Thank you.
So listen, I wanted to ask how you came up, because I've done comedy in the past, but never came up with a dual persona like you did and I just wondered how you hit on that, the whole, personal development, spiritual comedy thing. Like, did it evolve out of an act, or where did it come from?
It probably one of the most important principles in comedy, as you probably know, is the truth principle. So telling the truth, and probably more importantly, telling your truth. So that's where the spiritual health alter ego came from, because the spirituality and health, those were very true in my life. And they still are. My spiritual practice, my health practice, super important to me. So what I was finding is my ego would get ultra serious about these things. And of course, very egotistical about these things. So it's kind of like I isolated the very egotistic part of me and gave that the dominant expression. And that's why some of the personas you might see in the video, they're very serious and maybe pretty condescending and maybe a little bit passive aggressive and pretty unaware of oneself when you get down to it. So, that's a part of me. And I don't think any of us have a personality. We all have personalities. And I'm not talking about a diagnosable multiple personality disorder, but we all have different pieces and parts to our personality. And I think it's a beautiful thing, just like a rainbow isn't just a color, it's multiple colors. So I would dare say all of us have a lot of different personas on the inside. And any one of those, once we connect with it, that can become a character if you chose to be. I think the best place for character inspiration and personas is finding them within ourselves.
And were you performing comedy at the time, or what were you doing for a living? Or were you pursuing the spiritual path?
I was doing life coaching for a living. So before I did anything in the comedy world, I was doing life coaching for 15 years, helping people work through their emotional issues, their pain, their self-sabotage, and teaching workshops and retreats around the world. It was a beautiful thing. And my sense of humor was strong in my personal life, but I was telling myself a story professionally, it would be bad to let my sense of humor out. So I definitely wasn't doing comedy anywhere other than my personal life. But eventually I kept having these ideas coming to me to do, like, I could portray this perspective through a comedy video. And eventually I said, yeah, let me do that. It'll be a stupid video. It'll discredit me as a life coach, but I got to do it. So yeah, I didn't start performing comedy until I started YouTube, and then started stage comedy a little bit after that.
Wow, that's interesting. So it wasn't anything that was planned. It just came out of just doing your normal work.
I am not smart enough to plan things like that. Feel like I'm Forrest Gumping my way along. And there's a book I'm reading. It's called A Lion Tracker's Guide. So there's a quote that I really identify with. I think it's also very Forrest Gump-like. And the quote is this: I don't know where we're going, but I know exactly how to get there. And it's like, you look at Forrest Gump, he did all these amazing things, like became a ping pong star, football star, war hero, rich businessman. And he never planned on doing any of it. He just said yes. When he was presented with an opportunity or saw it, he said yes when it lit his heart up. Like, okay, I'll marry Jenny, even though he could have done much better. So for me, I've just been following my heart, not knowing where things are leading and how, I guess, therapy session, the way I feel very blessed with wonderful opportunities and blessings right now. None of them were orchestrated. It's all kind of like beyond my dream.
Well, that's all. Keep doing what you're doing. I hope you don't get too many more yeses, because we're loving, at least I'm loving the comedy thing right now. So whatever you say yes to next, just keep the comedy, okay?
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for your...
And thanks for answering my question.
And Shane is here on Facebook. Hey, Shane, if you want to jump in, this is the link. If anyone else wants to jump in, let's see if we can get you into the conversation. And Charlie had great questions. Hey, Mia Voss. Good to see you, girly. Oh, we can't hear you. Can we hear you? Yes, we can. No, we can't. Yes, we can.
You get a 2 for 1.
You get 2 for 1, but your audio is very low. So we can't hear you.
How about now?
Nope. If you see yourself on the screen, then we know we can hear you.
Testing.
There we go. Hi, guys.
There we go.
Hey, sharing a mic.
Hey there, guys.
Hi, JP. How are you?
I'm good. I wouldn't recommend sharing a mic. You'll probably definitely get the coronavirus from each other.
Oh, man. We're in it to win it, you know?
I don't know what that means, but good to see you guys.
Nice to see you, too. Thanks for all your sneaky snark is what I call it. You're so awesomely snarky. It's amazing. I saw your influencer video the other day. Was dying.
Oh, right on. Thank you.
Good job.
Well, hopefully you'll be coming to Denver someday soon.
Yes, and I will be. Just had comedy shows rescheduled for Denver, I think in September. So hopefully those will be able to happen.
Yeah,
Good.
right. Well, cool. So I guess piggybacking on the comedy bit and maintaining that, have you been approached by SNL yet, or any kind of cool projects like that?
You know, I haven't been approached by SNL, but thank you for your beautiful complimentary language yet. That's awesome. I love the way you're thinking. Over the past few years, there's been several TV show opportunities that, you know, eventually never panned out, but they've been exciting when they've happened. And I'm also so not attached to making any of that happen. I have so much fun and joy doing what I'm doing. And, you know, the I would call it unchecked creativity is what's most important to me. If there was a great opportunity, yet there were powers that be that would really filter the creativity, that would not be a great opportunity for me. And I love being in the position where I don't need anything like that. Yet if there was a beautiful fit and things got to be taken to the next level, that of course would be a joy.
Well, that was a fun question. And so I got a technical one for you too.
Yeah.
So even the thumbnails on Twitter, I mean, everything is top notch. What are some of you did say that you kind of turned everything over to a videographer, but do you remember or still have some of your favorite tools or apps that you use for production?
So what I was using, and but my videographer took things to the next level, and I actually couldn't even tell you how he does thumbnails. They're way better than when I was doing them. But how I would do them, I would actually edit them in PowerPoint. So typically I would take a screenshot from the video, or I would just pose for the camera when the video was still going, but I take a screenshot and bring that photo into PowerPoint, and that would allow me to easily overlay text and edit it. It was the easiest. I knew how. It was a way someone showed me. So, and then once it was done in PowerPoint, I would just screenshot the thumbnail and off I would be running. So it's not a bad way to do it. Maybe it's not the most sophisticated way, but it's a pretty cool, easy way.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then I guess media or advertising is embracing comedy more and more. You have the Poopery guys, which I saw that you got a little plug in. And I'm in the CBD hemp cannabis industry, and no one has really embraced comedy through education or even marketing yet. Do you have any kind of input or inspiration in marketing that way in those industries?
With regard to like CBD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not friendly with it. I had a sponsorship deal with a CBD company, did a whole video on making fun of CBD. The people get obsessed with it, like, oh, you got hit by a car. Well, CBD, you should help that.
Right.
So just really kind of taking things to the exaggerated degree. And anyway, YouTube took that video down because CBD, it's a narcotic according to YouTube. So I think that's really going to lighten up. I don't know when. So I know there are some restrictions, but I'm biased. I'm a comedian. So here's my delusional bias perspective. With something that's relatively new to the market, like CBD, the past couple of years, and some people who are maybe a little bit behind the curve still have objections in their mind, like, well, is that going to get me high, or what will that really do? Or, my addictive pain medication is going to be way better. I think comedy is a beautiful way to take people's objections away. You can portray them through comedy, and it can be very disarming. Whereas I think sometimes when we're taking people's objections away in a more of a sincere tone, people can feel like, oh, well, you're just using that as a strategy or a sales technique. But I don't know, I think playfulness is a phenomenal way of doing it.
You are speaking our language. Charlie, we call it marijuana baggage that people have. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Aaron, I know you're a pet lover too, so we got to. There you go.
We're getting my dog.
Oh no, we're gonna mess this whole thing up.
Gidget had to say hey.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
And thank guys. Good to see you, Mia. Fantastic
Good to
seeing
see
you,
you, sweetheart. Miss you.
Matt had a great question. Where are you, my buddy? Let's see. I cannot see you. There you are. Here you are. Hi.
Hi, how are you, JP?
I'm good for a redhead.
Good. So I have a question. Is the focus mainly on making the best content and like the best show that you can make? Or is some of that effort kind of split into trying to figure out more of the technical things, kind of like you were saying about, not just thumbnails and stuff and descriptions, but like what is the drop off points of the video and where are we getting found? And are you split testing like titles and images and all that kind of stuff? Or is most of it just we kind of have that technical side down. So we're just going to try to focus on making the best show we can.
You know, I would say I'm 100-0 ratio, where 100% of my effort is the creative, like what excites me, what amuses me. And I would play the old card, a little bit of do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
I do think it's a great idea to invest in the science side as well. Look at drop-off points, look at the analytics, because that's great data that can help you grow and improve. And I know there's room for me to grow and improve by looking at that. However, I just don't look at it. I get so much joy just doing the creative stuff where, you know, there's a big part of me, and I don't advocate this. It's how I am. But a big part of me says, like, I don't care what the data says. I want to do what excites me. And, you know, I do remember there was a time really early on where I'd try to make the videos like 2 to 3 minutes because like drop off times and like that's, you know, maximize viewer retention. So there's not any drop off time. But then, you know, over the years, like, you know, I think my second best performing video ever it's well over 6 minutes long.
Right.
And many of my videos are over 5 minutes. But yeah, I mean, I would advocate what you said, Matt. Do that. Pay attention. And I honestly think all of us are different with regard to the art and science. So I'm a little bit extreme where I'm like, I'm 100% art and 0% science. Some people, you know, there's a guy named James Wedmore. He had a YouTube course I took, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. That guy's like 95% science and 5% art.
Right.
And like, but that's him. And then I think for all of us, once we find our ratio, like what feels good to me, paying attention to the science side, the analytics versus freaking making stuff. I think once we find our ratio, being true to that is probably the best way to do it.
Right. One more quick follow-up. I see a few YouTubers have kind of started to make the jump onto the OTT platforms like the Amazon Prime, Netflix, that kind of thing. Is that something that you're planning on doing, or have you thought about that yet?
Yeah. It's something I don't want to rush yet. It's definitely on my mind. You know, I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 2.5 years now, which is, in the scheme of things, that's so short in the stand-up world. And over that 2.5 years, I've put a lot of work, so I've been able to improve a lot. Yet, to be honest, it's like, man, I don't think I'm Netflix ready yet. You know, getting closer, but when I am, I would love to have some kind of situation put together where I can have a special on Netflix or Amazon Prime, whatever the right platform is.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate your time.
Heck yeah, Matt. Thank you, brother.
Man, great questions today. I'm loving it. Heather, let's have you jump in. How are you, lady?
Awesome. I'm so good. How are you?
Good to see you.
So good to see you. I know. I've got babies crunching pretzels and pickles. She only eats pea things next to me, and a 7-year-old in the other room. So I hope it stays relatively quiet. Yeah.
So go for it.
So JP, I have to say, I so deeply appreciate you, for one, because I tend to be, and I just came this way, like a more serious personality, and I feel the weight of things very heavily. And so finding somebody and like sources that can give me deep belly laughs. Anyways, thank you for that. The number of deep belly laughs I've had just from coming across.
Yeah, Heather, thank you for that.
Well, and it's funny because I tag my sister a lot, who now has jumped onto this call. So my question is for people who are not strictly in entertainment and, you know, are a lot of educators. So I serve a lot of entrepreneurs in the online education space. Oh, yay, it's everybody in the online education space. Are you seeing, or like from your perspective, are you recommending any shifts in strategies about people's messaging, how they're showing up right now in light of the current crisis? Or are you is it still the question, and I love your focus on creativity and really, enjoying the creative aspect of it. Is the question still like, what does my heart want to create? Is that always the guiding principle?
For me, yes. And that's not to say you can't have multiple guiding principles, but for me, that's the prime guiding principle to pay attention to first. And for example, myself, might as well use myself as an example because I'm a narcissist. Let's find a way to talk more about me. Right, Heather?
You know the joke, right? Like, enough about you. Tell me what you no, enough about me. Tell me what you think about me.
Exactly. So I know for me, my creative inspirations a lot over the past month have been things around the quarantine, the crisis, doing comedy around that. Of course, not making light of devastation, but making light of toilet paper situation and being stuck with your partner, your spouse all the time. So my heart has naturally shifted. And I think, honestly, a lot of people, I think we're wearing out of this now. I think a lot of people are sort of over it. Yet initially, I think all people wanted was coronavirus related information or how can I live a better life given this crisis that's happening? How do I cope with the crisis that's happening? Because it's a damn hard thing to ignore. But I personally think that trend it's shifting now where it still has relevance, but now people are a bit over it.
Settled into it, totally.
And then I would also say, just adding something else, Heather, so I can pretend to give you some level of value. I think during the coronavirus time, obviously a lot of people have budget restrictions. So a lot of people are looking at this as a time to let me build my audience. I'll give stuff away for free or close to it, but largely for free, just under the guise of let me maximize building my audience and kind of like a farmer planting a seed. Like I'll plant the seed today. I ain't going to get fruit from it right now, but maybe in 6 months or a year, the seeds planted today will bear fruit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that is definitely the right approach. The thing that annoys me that especially early on that I saw was people were doing a couple things. One, just flat out ignoring the fact that this crisis was developing and continuing with some of the regular marketing messages, which I think it just appeared to be really tone deaf. And especially now if it continues, I think a lot of people have stopped that. Or the flip side is really try to capitalize on it. Right. Anyways, I just think that, but I like your guiding principle. I think if more people, if that was their guiding principle of like, what does my heart want to create? And that also comes from the place of service. I think when we really are tuned into that, people would do a lot better. But I just wondered if you personally had done any shifting or if that was still the guiding principle. Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you.
You're welcome, Heather. Thank you, sister.
Yep.
Awesome seeing you with your baby, Heather. I love it. So Alex got his setup all right and good and nice and dandy. Look at you, professional. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing yourself?
Fantastic. Good to see you. So
good to see you too.
Yeah. JP's all yours. Grab him away.
Hey, Alex.
All right, JP. Hey, nice to meet you. I just wanted to say the first time I saw you was on some social media platform, but I was driving through Portland, Oregon, and I just thought it was hilarious. You hit that vein perfectly. That vibe, you tore that vibe apart the way it needed to be. Thank you. So I appreciate that.
Awesome, brother. Thank you for that.
Is it a better practice to separate brands for different aspects of your business or to create one singular brand?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know if I'm smart enough to answer that, but so I can even see if I'm smart enough. Could you give me an example real quick of what separating the brands might be versus?
Sure. So my background is in graphic design, branding, marketing, video editing, but I'm entering real estate. So my niche is that I'm able to create all the branding, all the marketing, all the photos, everything on my own instead of having to outsource it. But I want to do it specifically for real estate. And so what I've created now is I've created a graphics website, a real estate website. I also have my own name.com. And so I have all these separate brands that I have created, and I can create them on my own. It's not going to cost me anything. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I've been sitting here doing this for months now. But is it beneficial to have separate brands or to funnel everything through one website, through one channel?
Well, in my opinion, separate brands for separate products or services, to me, that's better. Short term, I'll say it would feel like a gut punch, like, oh, separating out, like, you know, there's the mothership of like the whole audience here, like, which is enticing. But then we're starting small or from scratch with like, you know, the new platform or the new website. But for me, long-term growth, that's always better, because when you put yourself in someone's shoes, would it confuse them to see like, oh, why is this guy doing all this? It's like if you were on Tony Robbins' website and he's like, oh, I can go to these self-growth events, but he also does car washes. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah.
Extreme example, but for me, long term, I think the brand separation, if they're in separate categories, I think that's always best.
Okay. Would you separate? I'm bilingual as well. Would you separate the languages into two different characters?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't have experience with that, so I won't even give you a half-cocked answer because it would just be delusion.
But I can help with that. I can help with that. So I'm trilingual and a half. And it's so much easier when you just have the plugin that translates the languages, rather than having people bounce off websites. If it's the same thing, keep them there and let them choose the language. And then you're sending traffic to one place, right? And you're capturing everybody else, because Google right now actually detects the language that you're using and pops up a message and says, do you want to read it in your own language? So that you don't have to have so many assets in different languages.
Okay, the reason I asked that is that, so I'll tell jokes about my family and use their accent, and every single time I do that, everyone's like, "Did your parents really talk like that?" I'm like, yeah, they do. Every day. Every day. And so they just don't get it. That's why I've been considering splitting them apart, because it doesn't make sense for a lot of people unless it's just like one thing or another.
There we go. We got the dog.
Yeah.
So, is that cool? Is that good, Alex? Did you get your?
Yeah, it's cool. It's a good accent. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So Tim is here, and guys, JP, do you have some more time? We have some more questions coming in. How are you doing on time? Oh, you were muted again.
You muted him.
How did you mute yourself again? Oh, because of the dog. Hold on a second. There we go. Here you are. Now you're unmuted, right? Yes.
Yes, I think I'm back.
Yes, you're back.
There, I can hear you.
Awesome. So we're gonna turn this one off. So yay. Hey Tim, how are you?
I'm great. JP, thanks for coming on. You've answered a lot of questions. You're pretty inspirational. I appreciate that. And thanks for the coupon code for everybody for your next Friday Night Live comedy. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah. And it's I love your background, Alex.
Thanks. Well, it's a little place I'm renting to a couple. He's out of town a lot, so I get to go visit, you know. Listen, you're obviously very, very talented at what you do, because you make it look so easy. Okay. And as we are all building something, we're all entrepreneurs. And as a comedian, you're an entrepreneur, you're building something from nothing. Give us an idea as to what you do, because your wife's very supportive. We need to all have that support. What do you do to get you through that hump when you're like, man, I just thought this was going to work. Nobody likes this. This idea is just not panning out. What do you do to get yourself through that to the next level?
You know, two things that come up. The first is I always have a what's next. So like if something flops, doesn't meet my expectations, which by the way, doesn't mean it was a failure, just means
Yeah.
my expectations weren't aligned with the reality of it. But I'll always have a what's next, and whether it's the next video, next project, whatever it is. Because if I don't, I know myself, and I think it's part of human nature, we'll dwell on, well, this didn't go good, so we can just put our life energy into the well of depression, or we can put our life energy into moving forward to what's next. Like, oh, cool, that video, it sucked. What's the next video I'm doing? And let's get jazzed about that. And then, one other, it seems trivial, yet it's so important, seems simple, but so powerful. And that's having good physical energy. And so all the things, eating well, exercising, sleeping well, being well hydrated, we're so much more resilient when we take care of ourselves like that. So that for me, I would actually say it's a business move to take care of my health. And like typically when I'm going to bed, like last night, I was in bed at 9 something. And that's not because I want to. That's because my day today, I've got such important, exciting stuff. So I want to show up well. So it's like going to bed at 9 something last night. That was a business decision. And so especially when things don't go my way, I don't go as down because my, good energy wants to go up.
Okay.
That's
great
science, but
yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I did accept your friend request. So you're in, you're all set.
Yay.
There you go. All right. Thanks, you. Great show too.
This is awesome. I love you guys. You're like fantastic. You're really awesome people. Paul, you can unmute yourself, right? And anyone else who has a question, just put that in the comments, like in the, or if you want to hop on in. I think JP has a few more minutes, right, JP?
Indeed.
Twisting your arm live.
Yeah, I just have what I hope will be one quick question. I hope it won't take him too far down the rabbit hole. But first of all, thanks for your time. I'm really grateful for your time today, JP. I want to go back to what you said early on about the truth in comedy. And when you look at everything that's going on right now, I always kind of try to keep my eye out for that. And I think when you look at a lot of the memes that are being created right now on different social media platforms, there's this kind of scary truth in a lot of them, like these memes that are about, there was one last week where the person was like, so it turns out all of my hobbies are going out to restaurants. They were all like really shallow things that they can't do now, Yeah. And then I saw another one the other day that said, I don't see any more posts about, it was basically pointing out like the gushy partner posts. I'm not seeing so many he's my world posts anymore, and I think about that and I think like I chuckle and I think like, so it's funny, but it's not funny, right? Like there's this thing going on that people are really sort of being forced to look in the mirror about some stuff. And we're blessed to have this time with you right now. Like you come from a life coaching background. Like I know I'm asking you to speculate. I know that, but like, what do you think's going to happen when this, we know it's never going to go back to the way it was, but it's going to settle down some. And when it does settle down and people have to start really being faced with some of the stuff they're learning about themselves, like, is there a movement that's going to come out of this? Or like, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, well, Paul, I love your willingness to ask a redhead to prophesize about the future. Seems pretty irresponsible of you, and I love it. So, who knows? But here's my guess. I think right now we're living in a time of mandatory introspection. It just seems like we are, and life seems to get a lot more graceful when we go into ourselves. Life gets a lot more friction, frustration. Things seem to go wrong when we're trying to escape ourselves. I don't know what all the cosmic forces are, if there's any that have like created this time of mandatory introspection from like a kind of a spiritual self-growth level. So honestly, I think many of us could agree, like this is a wake-up call. And many fronts. One, like, oh my God, I haven't been taking care of my health and now I'm frightened about, a weak immune system. So it's a wake-up call there. And then I think it's also I'm going to say it's a spiritual wake-up call. So I think moving forward, a lot of people will be more connected with what matters most to them in their lives. They realize like, okay, like money, status, job, like that can actually be taken away in the snap of the fingers. None of us ever believed it could. Nothing like this has happened in my lifetime, but we realize like, wow, that can happen. So like we realize that too shall pass, but the things that matter most don't pass. And that's love, connection, kindness. So I think there is a movement being created that'll be expressed in many different diversified ways. And it's a movement of people valuing what's actually valuable, what matters the most, rather than valuing what isn't nearly as valuable. Money, the illusion of security. Like, don't get me wrong, those things are important to me, but I think we've all been guilty of putting those too damn high on the pedestal. So, this is a very humbling time. And I think a lot of us will move forward having benefited by being humbled and likely be better people because of it.
That's great. Thank you.
Heck yeah.
I love that. And this is actually a really great transition into one of your missions before we jump into Allison. Your mission is to provide access to clear water to 663 million. Why not 664? I don't understand you.
That's a good question. Because we're doing well. Yeah, I'm involved with a great organization called Charity Water, and it's not more because we've been doing a good job of being able to get clean water to the people that need it most. So I would love it when the mission is we don't need to get clean water to anybody anymore.
There are only 663 million people in the world that need clean water. That's it. That's all we have.
Apparently.
That's all we need. Yeah.
I did not do that counting, but believing people that allegedly have done the counting. Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, that's through Awaken with JP. Do you want to talk about just the mission and how people can support you in that?
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't realize is more people die each year from dirty water than from all violence and war combined.
Yeah.
Now, in the US, we don't really need to think about this. Yet in many other countries and parts of the world, women and children, I mean, they're watching their kids suffer because the only water they have access to is dirty water.
Yeah.
The dirt is the least of it, but unfortunately with organisms that cause a lot of disease and death. So I got involved with an organization called Charity Water because they solved that problem. And something that is important to me with the charity, first off, is all the donations go to supporting the cause, not lining the pockets of the executives. And Charity Water, they get their administration costs covered by other donors, basically super rich people that just write big checks. And they leave it to, us wonderful weirdos to give what we can when we can. And we get rest assured 100% of the money we donate goes towards drilling wells around the world. So not only do people have clean water for a day, but they have it, for a lifetime. So there's been many villages around the world that we've been able to change lives
That's
for.
amazing.
So, I just imagine, being a parent and seeing my child, one, going thirsty, and two, when they do have water, watching them be sick and not knowing, is my child ever going to get well again? Or am I going to have to watch my child pass away in front of me? There's nothing that would wrench my heart more. So I just imagine, being that parent who has the gift, the blessing of like, now we have clean water, that unspeakable stress, the horror is not something they have to deal with anymore. So there's, through the campaign that I have, we've raised well over $100,000 to give those parents and give the children a much better life. So it's just been a joy to work with them. And, if And if any of y'all want to get involved, I'm always happy to have wonderful, kind people involved. And it's just kind of like a give what you can, whether it's $5 a month, 50 or one or
How do they do
whatever.
that? How do people get involved?
If you go to cwtr.org/JP, you'll see how you can quickly and easily get involved.
There you go. Heather put it up there. Fantastic.
Thank you, Heather.
So on it. And Alison, let's put you in and finish up with you. How are you, lady?
Hey,
so good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm going to need you to help me figure out how to get this background off.
Later on.
I don't know how I got here.
Later on.
And I'm sure it was my doing, though. Anyway, JP, thanks for being here, and everyone else as well. I have a question. So, JP, I'm an Austin yoga teacher, and I do a lot of work with sexual abuse and bereavement and grief and loss. So, but I also have a very healthy inner comedian that I really enjoy that part of me, and I need that to balance the other parts of work that I do. And I'm curious for you, because I get this question, or I get this for myself as too. People say, hey, that's not funny. Like, that might hurt someone's feelings. Like, you're not taking this seriously. And not that my jokes are about sexual abuse and grief and loss, but it's about everything else. So I find that it's a very healthy thing for me to have. So I'm curious what do you do when that happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I know my intentions are pure, then, first off, I'll stay with, I won't self-sacrifice my sense of humor and my joy and the ability to potentially lift people up with that because one or two or a few people don't like it. Now, what I do is really get true in my mindset. So, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but when people are stuck as the victim, and being a victim, especially if it's been through abuse, that's obviously not a great place to be. And we've all had some degree of that. But one of the problems is oftentimes people, instead of going through a stage of victimization, they get stuck in victimization and it becomes the state they live in. Now, if you're making light of something, even if it happened 10 years ago, or if it's not like, the part about making light of something else, the victim consciousness always gets threatened by that. Like, hey, if we're laughing here, that threatens my self-identity as a victim. And right now I get my needs met as a victim. It's how I feel significant by making myself the biggest victim around, and it gets people to feel sorry for me, and it solidifies my self-identity. Now, it's a horrible place to be stuck in, but it's weird how people are willing to fight to stay in that horrible place. So I think, honestly, a great service at times is when someone is in that state of being a victim, them having a pattern interrupt and a different perspective thrown, instead of like, oh, for the next 50 years, we're going to cuddle around you and say, poor you, while we disempower you so you can feel the illusion of empowerment by being a victim. But if we can actually use humor as an alchemist to transform the pain, now you can actually be something more than a victim. Now, it's weird because some people become willing to hostilely fight for their right to continue being a victim, which means you might not ever change your mind. Yet, what I'm saying is, if you know your heart's pure, your intent is pure, you sharing humor is a great service. And it's never going to be right for everybody. Some people will combat you, but I think it's one of the best things, one of the best antidotes to the disempowering victim state that people can get stuck in.
Yeah. Sweet. Thank you so much.
Heck yeah.
That was a great question. And it makes me think about like haters. Do you get a lot of haters now that you're such a celebrity on YouTube?
I don't get a lot. Certainly some, every once in a while I'll see a comment on a video or Instagram like, you're not funny anymore.
Right.
I'm thinking, well, thank you for watching my stuff. Like, even though I'm not funny. I appreciate your viewership.
And the
Maybe
time
you should
that
go
you're
watch
taking,
something that's
right?
fun.
You're taking time to tell me I'm not funny, which means you watch the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like, well, your comments actually helping the algorithm. So thank you for
Keep
commenting.
doing it.
But you know, to be honest with you, I don't get much in the way of haters, or at least I don't pay too much attention to it, and I don't deliberately look for it. You know, we'll always find what we're looking for, and if someone wants conflict and they're creating something, they can always go out and find haters. And I'll tell you, it ain't a constructive use of time. But when I do notice haters, you know, I don't engage. I don't hate back. I don't try to justify myself, because, you know, two things. First off, if someone's hating on you, that's a hurt person.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to do is hurt an already hurting person. And then the second thing I realize is, in the history of the internet, no one has ever had their mind changed in the comment thread.
That's true.
It's just never happened.
That's true.
So I don't want to waste my time.
That's fantastic. I love it, because this is one of the fears that a lot of people are facing, right? Like, oh, I'm going to put myself out there and then I'm going to get all this backlash that I am not going to know how to handle. And maybe you were a little bit luckier because you are funny, and you are kind of like playing on the thoughts that everybody's thinking about, so that you're bringing, you know, smiles to people's faces, maybe less hate, which is great.
Could be.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Again, one last question. You used YouTube to build your comedy business, which is using an online tool to build an offline gig, right? But your YouTube videos don't have a call to action at the end of them. It's not, you don't have kind of like, okay, come see me play or buy my stuff or do all these things. So how were you using YouTube to actually fuel your offline business without buy my shit?
Well, I've gotten smart. Now the videos do have a call to action.
Now you do.
at the end of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them do now. And of course, when I was touring before the quarantine, oftentimes it's like, hey, check out awakenwithjp.com/events for my stand-up tour schedule. And now, you know, needing to pivot, now I'm doing live stream comedy shows every Friday night. So doing them from my living room to broadcasting to your living room. So now my call to action is join me for my, you know, live stream comedy show, awakenwithjp.com/live. And yeah, and the cool thing with that, you know, it took me a while to like get smart and do that. And I also had a little bit of resistance, like, oh, I don't want to just be in people's face advertising. Yeah, I find it feels so good. Like if I put my heart and soul into a video, give people a good value, here's an entertaining experience, then like I feel totally good. Like here's a little ask, and I'm a human. I also need to eat. So
are you saying that 300 million views are not paying rent? They're not enough? Are you killing YouTube dreams right now?
That's a good question. Depends on what your rent is, if it'll pay it or not.
So being a big YouTube star is not the end all be all for actually making a living, right? It's the beginning.
Man, no. I mean, getting a big YouTube audience, the revenue you make from YouTube is the least of the potential. You know, and if that's all you're living on, which, you know, eventually you can get to a point where you can live on it. But if that's all you're living on, you're missing big opportunities. A lot more money is potentially made outside of the YouTube ad revenue.
So can we talk about that? Do we have some time? Yeah. Okay. So the biggest opportunities are what? Sponsorship, gigs, appearances. What are the big opportunities of a YouTube channel?
It's a good question. You know, I'm sure it depends on your industry, but let me just speak for mine. The comedy shows have been by far the most lucrative thing. So in-person comedy shows, and then now the live stream comedy shows are proving to be a great thing. Like now I'm not just like, hey, if you're in Denver, come to my show. I'm traveling through next week. And now it's like, oh, if you have the internet, come to my show this Friday.
I love that.
So those have been great for me. Sponsorships have, you know, that's maybe the next tier down. That's something, you know, I like. It's one of the baskets of diversification, yet there's so much outside of my control there that I don't ever want to just depend on sponsorships, but I'll take them when the situation's right. And then there's also merch, which is, I would call it a little supplement, but then, and then I also do online courses to,
you have a community,
in the self-growth realm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like you look at what you do and like, cool, like YouTube gets to be a way to connect.
So YouTube is kind of like the marketing arm for all these other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a good thing for you guys to pay attention to. A lot of people think, oh my God, I'm going to have 1 million followers, 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and I'm going to have it made. Diversify. Yeah. You heard it here from JP. Diversify.
Diversify indeed.
Diversify. So thank you so much, JP. This has been fantastic. Thank you, everybody who joined us. Your questions have been fantastic. And let's help JP give the world clean water. And if you want more of him, join him. Did you say Friday night or Saturday night?
Friday night.
Friday night at, where do they find you?
You can go to my website, awakenwithjp.com/live. And in fact, I'll type it in
the chat, and we will put that in. We'll put it in the comments and everywhere online. Say yes, like, share, continue being amazing people out there. Remember to smile and live your passion. Follow your heart and take good care of yourself. Everybody, 9 p.m. in bed tonight. You heard JP. This is a business decision.
Love it. Thank you guys, and thank you so much for having me, sister.
Thanks so much for joining.